Hi, I'm Stephen Ramirez, the CEO of Beyond the Arc, and I am excited to once again be at Finovate. Today, it's FinovateSpring in sunny San Diego, and I couldn't be happier to have today's conversation. I'm going to be speaking with Alisa Rusanoff from Alternative Capital Solutions. Alisa, thank you very much for joining me. To begin, just tell me a little bit about your role.
Sure, thanks for having me, first of all. I do a lot of trade finance, investments into supply chain finance, account receivable finance, and embedded finance. So a lot of it is basically with, a lot of it deals with cross-border trade and tariffs and geopolitical landscape. So it's super interesting. I've always been on the credit side, so analyzing the trends, analyzing the credit worthiness of the companies. So fun times.
Yeah, well, right now in that space, some people have called this the generation of generative AI, right? This is the era of generative AI. Is that your take? And if so, what does that mean?
I think it's not even about industry specific on trade finance, but it's just a global phenomenon. Everyone is building AI agents. It depends on the data you have access to. I think every single application would find their own kind of goal and target and path. So in trade finance, it's certainly super interesting because it's historically been a little bit outdated in terms of technology back in it, on the back office side, on the credit underwriting side, due diligence side. And it is a lot of different types of transactional volume. So we're dealing with a lot of invoices, we're dealing with a lot of supporting documentation. And what's really important here is that every single country, every single jurisdiction has very fragmented policies and procedures. And certain countries like the UK is much more advanced in trade digitization. And I know just literally in the last 24 hours, I think there is more initiative in terms of US and UK digitization of trade, which is an important tool of kind of streamlining the entire efficiency and the entire process of trade. So super important. I do believe some markets will be still fragmented, but I think we are all kind of striving for a little bit more inclusive trade policy and maybe not blockchain globally, but certain aspects of kind of like understanding where we have to be or where we have to strive for.
Well, I think you've hit on a couple of really good points, and I started my career very early on, many decades ago, in international business, international trade. Okay. And to this day, it seems like trade finance is pretty old school, right? So I wonder, you mentioned blockchain, talk about generative AI. Is there a particular trend right now in trade finance that you find really exciting?
Yes, I think AI agentic tools are very, very exciting. And I think it does take tremendous amount of expertise from people like, hopefully myself on the credit side, and a lot of people from the back office side, and a lot of people from kind of like credit operations, due diligence processes, to really create tools that are very niche and specific for what we're trying to build and what we're trying to prevent on the fraud side. As you're coming from the same industry, fraud is probably the bigger risk than credit, because credit you can still underwrite. It's quantitative more than qualitative, but fraud is both quantitative and qualitative, and there's a lot of bad actors that are coming up using just the same tools and probably much more innovative, given regulatory environments.
I'm sure you've seen that deep fake, incident that happened, I think in Singapore, around an international trade deal where people thought they were on the phone with people that they knew.
Exactly.
The entire thing was AI generated, and huge fraud, huge risk, right? So
exactly.
So definitely a hot topic.
Yeah, so there's that side in terms of deep fakes, but also there is a lot of documentation. So manually,
yes.
It's impossible to review everything, and just to pick on little trends and patterns. So with AI and full volume automation, what we're trying to strive for is basically understanding and create like a tool that gives you live monitoring understanding of how your portfolio is performing, where the risks are, what the patterns could be, to basically make sure you're preventing from double billing, for example, right? Mm-hmm. Like selling the same invoice twice, or there's like some entity, fictitious, affiliated entity that should not be in the market. So there's like so many little details that I've seen in the industry, and a lot of us have dealt with in the past. We have to build tools to be able to prevent from them, especially with increasing attack on the deepfake side, on the fraudsters, whether it's direct lending companies or it's lenders that happened in the industry as well.
Well, it seems like today, particularly at this Finovate, maybe for the first time, international trade is very high on the radar. And in particular, I think everyone's become an international trade expert as it applies to tariffs in particular. Well, you actually are an international trade expert, and I'm wondering if you could speak to how have tariffs started to change the conversation?
Yeah, we used to be COVID experts. Now we're all trade finance experts. So we're seeing different types of trends, right? I'm working with a lot of SMBs, small to mid-sized businesses. So people and businesses, they all try to survive. And this is just a 24/7 conversation, right? So I'm seeing a lot of different workout situations when people are just waiting on what's going to happen on some kind of deals, like the US, the UK just come up with some kind of deal today on, on the agricultural products and the car export and car parts export and stuff like that. So there's a lot of rerouting in terms of shipments that were supposed to be coming to the US, but they might be rerouted to like Canada or Mexico, and they go into like bonded warehouses. And it obviously comes with a cost, obviously, but it's not 100+% that's coming from China. So it does hurt the businesses, and it does hurt the lenders as well. If a lender advances against a specific equipment that's coming, let's say, from China, and it comes and it does get delivered, but now you have to pay, let's say it's a $10 million equipment, and the lender gives you 80% on that, which is like $8 million, and then now you're billed with a tariff of like over $10 million. So the lender cannot really advance because they're out of formula, right? There's no collateral behind it. So it really, really hurts the company. But if the company doesn't get access to the equipment, right, then the lender's in trouble as well. So it's really all very much intertwined in terms of how the economy is performing. So it is hurting very much short term, but people and companies are looking for workarounds to understand where the pivot could happen and where the manufacturing could be, brought on board or, to other regions, which is really difficult to do in terms of scale, especially if you're a large manufacturer. Everyone is working out, everyone is, struggling, but I think longer term we'll find the solution. Hopefully, really, really hopeful that the deals do happen, and everyone is just kind of like in a limbo state now.
Well, it sounds like at a minimum, we're looking at a lot more complexity. There's not going to be simple answers. It seems like it's going to be very fragmented.
Yeah.
So maybe that's going to keep experts really busy.
That is very true. And, finance people as well, trade finance people, because there's going to be a lot of supply chain and logistics complexity. There's going to be a lot more working capital gaps. Unfortunately, it does hurt the small businesses, the corporations in the United States and abroad as well, right? Just to be specific, it does hurt the consumer long term because inflation is a consequence, like a direct consequence of that, for sure. I wouldn't say it's great for my business, just given the cyclicality of everyone's kind of macroeconomic condition. But I'm sure we're going to be busy. But I do hope long term we will work things out, and it's going to go back to like kind of normalcy and certain expectations for the businesses.
Great. Well, Alisa, just one last question for you. Again, we are here at what I think is the heart of FinTech innovation. These people coming together, this community at Finovate. I'm wondering if what you've seen so far, the conversations you're expecting, is there one FinTech trend that you're particularly excited about?
I would say AI agents or agentic AI is probably what I'm most excited about, because we know that systems and open sources, they hallucinate, and it's a known fact. And also another problem is black box problem. So what I'm trying to do, what we're building, and what I'm seeing in the industry as well, you're trying to build little fragmented pieces. You're using the same model multiple times for the same data set. You're using reasoning and judging tools at the back end of the tools you're building, just to avoid a black box problem. So you can go back and always verify what has been done, because you have regulators, you have small businesses, you have a lot of reporting capabilities, and you also want to be fair to your own kind of investment policies and procedures. And in terms of hallucination, you have to make sure you you're using very small pieces of information, just building based on like very niche tools, very niche problems, and then just creating those complex things. So again, I'm not a tech person, right? But I understand certain concepts, and it's a very fascinating business, and this is a very fascinating, I think, trend in innovations. And tons of companies that I'm meeting here are pretty interesting from different angles, whether it's B2B, B2C. So it's exciting times.
Great. Well, Alisa, thank you very much. I really appreciate the conversation. Really appreciate everybody joining us. If you've liked this content, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again.